The mining settlement on Epsilon 7 had never been designed to inspire awe or comfort. It existed because it had to, a scatter of prefabricated domes pressed into a red, chemically scarred wasteland whose soil chewed through machinery as readily as it eroded hope, a place where dust storms rolled across the plains like living things and survival depended less on optimism than on sheer refusal to quit. And for 3 long years Marcus Chan had been the colony's chief mechanic, the man everyone called when air recyclers coughed, drill heads shattered, or power cores screamed themselves into silence, a human patching together a fragile outpost with limited tools, scavenged parts, and the quiet certainty that if he stopped improvising, people would die. Yet even after 1,000 emergency repairs, nothing in his experience prepared him for the distress signal that flared from the Western Canyon. Because when Marcus arrived with the rescue team, he did not find a collapsed rig or a ruptured tunnel but a smoking crater torn into the land like a fresh wound. And within it lay a being that rewrote every assumption he had ever made about the universe, a massive draconian nearly 4 meters tall, her body armored in living scales that shimmered between emerald and sapphire as light struck them, ancient and powerful and unmistakably real, yet broken, burned, and bleeding. And when she spoke her name, Jarth, her voice echoed with a resonance like wind moving through stone, explaining that she was a star cartographer, one of her people tasked with mapping safe passages between distant systems, and that an explosion during a mining incident far from Epsilon 7 had destroyed her navigation systems and taken her sight, leaving her drifting blind from world to world in search of a cure that every expert, draconian and otherwise, had declared impossible. And as Marcus studied her face, he saw where eyes should have been only scar tissue and damaged optical nerves, sealed by medical techniques far beyond human capability, techniques that had saved her life but not her vision. And while the rescue crew whispered prayers and fears, Marcus's engineer mind did something different, because instead of asking how to heal what had been lost, he asked whether sight truly needed eyes at all. And that question consumed him for the next 4 sleepless days as he took over the colony's cargo bay and stripped it bare, pulling quantum processors from mining consoles, biometric scanners from the medical wing, neural interface chips from communication arrays, working in a blur of solder smoke and code while colonists whispered that he had finally cracked, yet still helped because that was the unspoken law of Epsilon 7, that when something mattered everyone pitched in. And Jarth remained there through it all, the cavernous bay becoming both workshop and laboratory as Marcus explained between frantic bursts of work that humans were not born with perfect senses, that their eyes were weak and their hearing flawed, so they invented tools to compensate, telescopes to see distant stars, microscopes to reveal hidden life, sensors to detect heat and radiation, sonar to navigate darkness. And that humanity survived not by being strongest but by learning how to see beyond natural limits, an idea Jarth absorbed with quiet intensity as she observed that his kind turned weakness into creation. To which Marcus replied with a tired grin that they preferred to call it upgrading. And when the device was finally complete, it looked unlike anything the colony had ever produced, a sleek visor of dark alloy shaped to fit a draconian skull, embedded with lead sensors capable of detecting electromagnetic waves, radiation spectra, thermal gradients, and even subtle quantum fluctuations. Its neural pads designed to interface directly with damaged optic nerves and translate raw data into signals the brain could interpret. And when Marcus powered it on, Jarth froze, her massive frame trembling as tears carved bright paths down her scaled face because she could see again, not merely light and shadow but layers of reality unfolding at once, heat blooming through walls, mineral veins glowing beneath the ground, invisible solar winds painting colors across space, and Marcus, suddenly shy in the face of what he had done, admitted he might have added too many features and pointed out a switch to reduce the input if it became overwhelming. But Jarth stood taller than she had since the crash and declared that this was not excess but revelation, because where her people had studied the universe for millennia through limited perception, Marcus had not restored her sight so much as expanded it, granting access to aspects of reality no draconian had ever experienced. And days later, as she explored this new vision, alarms screamed across Epsilon 7 and the sky itself seemed to fracture as 4 colossal draconian war cruisers tore out of hyperspace, each the size of a city and armed with weapons capable of cracking planets, rendering the colony's defenses meaningless as humans fled to the command center in terror while a thunderous voice identified itself as Fleet Commander Shorax of the Draconian Sovereignty and demanded the return of their lost star cartographer along with the surrender of those responsible for her capture, a misunderstanding that tightened Marcus's chest with dread until Jarth's calm, commanding voice cut through every channel to order the fleet to stand down, correcting their assumption with unshakable authority as she explained that the humans were not captors but miracle workers, that she had been found blind and broken and that a human mechanic had given her what their greatest minds could not, and skepticism filled the silence because draconian technology surpassed humanity's by centuries and such a feat should have been impossible. Yet Jarth invited them to come and see, And when four towering commanders stood face to face with Marcus an hour later, they stared at the crude visor with disbelief as he activated a holographic display revealing streams of data converted into vision layer by layer, heat, radiation, electromagnetic fields, quantum noise made visible. And the ancient beings were struck speechless as they admitted their scientists had pursued such an interface for decades without success,
while Marcus merely shrugged because no one had told him it could not be done.
And when Shorax bowed and offered wealth, territory, and technology in repayment, Marcus refused it all, asking only for respect and star charts. And when the fleet departed weeks later, it left behind alliances, shared knowledge, and a permanent embassy. Because humanity had not gained a superweapon that day but something far rarer, recognition. And back in the garage bay, Marcus returned to repairing machines as he always had.
His name now whispered across the stars as the human who taught dragons to see the universe in a new way.